Hello and welcome to the Complete Lakers podcast. I'm Anthony Wilson, recording from Los Angeles, California. So, just about 15, 20 minutes ago, the Lakers got finished beating the Grizzlies for the second time in 3 nights. The final score was 120 to 114. Um, uh, Lakers get a cut. Lakers have been struggling, and they lost 4 or 5 coming into these two home games they had against the Grizzlies at the arena formerly known as Staples Center. They come in, or well, they don't come in, but they protect they protect the crypt and pick up a couple wins against the Grizzlies to start the new year. And what can I say? The Lakers were most of these games. They played the game on Friday night, and it was just another frustrating performance. They didn't win for the Lakers because the Grizzlies are not that good. And the Grizzlies came out tonight and they didn't even have Ja Morant, which I don't even know what was wrong with Ja. But he didn't play tonight, and the Grizzlies were winning in the first half. They were like 15 points or something like that in the first half. The second quarter, and then Lakers closed it. I think it was like a 6-point game at the half or something like that. And then they, just right down to the end, Grizzlies were still in it, but the Lakers were able to get just a little bit of separation and hold it. Luka finished with 36 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists. LeBron finished with 26 points, 7 rebounds, and 10 assists. Jake LaRavia, the second straight strong game against the Grizzlies. He had 26 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. This is after having 21 and 9 against them on Friday. For most of the game, at least in that first half, it just made me really the whole game. Because why? What reason do the Lakers have for not beating the Grizzlies by 20? Really, even when Ja plays, let alone when he doesn't play. But that's just the Lakers for you. Like I said a million times, they're a team that plays down to their competition. And with Ja not playing, I'll say Lakers said, okay, well, we should be able to just, they roll the ball out there, the referee, we should be able to just win just by showing up. And, that's how they played. And finally at the end, they just, they were able to get a little bit of separation and they were able to win. So it continues to be the same thing. Even though they won, they played a team that's not good. As I said, the Grizzlies are now 15 and 20. The Lakers improved to 22 and 11. I think I've been thinking about this Lakers team. I think that they are. I posted a video where I said the Lakers have tuned JJ Redick out. It just seemed like it still seems like they're really just not listening to him anymore. And JJ's the type of coach that he's a very hard-nosed, intense coach. He's not a laid-back coach. And sometimes players don't like that, but usually it takes a while. Maybe they feel like, well, JJ, like Pat Riley, right? By the end, Pat Riley, his last season coaching the Lakers was 1990. They were still a very successful team. They went 63 and 19 that year. That was the year after, the first year that Kareem was retired. So the year after Kareem retired, first year after Kareem's retirement, and they on 63 games, and Riley won his first Coach of the Year. But then they flamed out in the second round against the Suns, and after all those years of Riley, because Riley was a hard-nosed coach and a tough coach to play for. He worked his players really hard. And finally, the guys were just done. They're just tired of Riley, Magic and Byron and the guys. And so it had to end. But usually, that was after, talking 9 straight, seasons of dealing with Pat. Lakers are only playing for JJ for a year and a half. it already seems like they're kind of tired of him. Now this his team was remade last year at the deadline, and then a lot more changes were made this past summer. Uh, but I always go back to last year before the trade and how striking it was. He had gotten the Lakers to the point JJ had, where they were just playing at uh, such a it was like a decisiveness that they were playing with, and a certain intensity, like a tenacity. That was just I don't think there was any other team in the league that was playing like that, you know. And when the trade happened and they bring in Luka Doncic changes your entire fabric of your team. So that completely changed the way that they were playing, because the way Luka plays is very slow paced. Like I said, Luka is, if you, historically the knock against European players has been that they're like lazy, too lackadaisical, too laid back. And Luka is, he's of that vein. As I said before, he's of the Tony Kukoc, the Vlade Divac, Pau Gasol, you know, a little bit more. Luka like doesn't shut up, and he's always complaining to the refs. He's just not. He's more of um, their breed. These laid back kind of European guys, as opposed to like nowadays you have more like guys who are a little bit more intense, a little bit more badass, like the Joker and Alfred Şengün. They're more like the badass Slavs, right? Luka and Vlade and Kukoc and Gasol, they're different. They're different cats. And so when you bring somebody like that in, who is like Luka Bailey, just like a big kid out there talking and laughing and messing around and complaining to the referees and talking trash to other teams, talking trash to the fans, he just doesn't stop. Well, and the other guys, unless you have a team full of guys who were like I said, like dogs, like the Knicks had back in the '90s under Riley and Van Gundy, or like the Rockets have right now. And I bet you got a bunch of other guys who are, like DeAndre Ayton. These guys are not these are not high intensity basketball players. And so the way that they play is very just laid back, and uh, like it doesn't matter, And they really JJ, like I said last year, the way he had them playing. They were a reflection of his personality, of the sharpness that they had come to start playing with. But that just changed once Luka uh, joined the team. It gives them a higher ceiling, I think, but it's kind of it would in a alternate universe have been kind of fascinating to see. What JJ, how far he could have taken them. If maybe they could have gotten like one extra offensive option, because that's what they were complaining about before the big trade. Was that they had LeBron, Austin, and AD. They had to play so well because they didn't have much margin for error, because that was like really the only three offensive players that we had. But now you have Ayton, you have Laravia come in and do some things, and then Luka is just an offense all by himself. He's so young, 26 years old. So it's like they have more margin for error, and that's the reason that they don't play as hard. You know, it was somewhat out of necessity. Also last year, that thing I noticed of them playing with such panache, because they had to. They're very top heavy. This team is, so they have three stars at the top when healthy, and Luka, Austin, and LeBron. They also have, like I said, DeAndre Ayton, they have Marcus Smart. They have Jake LaRavia. This kid Nick Smith can play. So it's a Rui. So it's it's really a more talented team. Sometimes like besides the Lakers, that's what Lakers will have a really talented team that at least since I've been watching them, like I said, Showtime was different. Showtime they took care of business. But this is more like the type of team that you're gonna watch them, and they're like, he's just like, girl, why don't you guys play more like OKC and just stop everybody that you're supposed to stop? And the Lakers just don't do that. And like I said, I don't think it's JJ's fault. It's the player's fault. And it's weird because when the season started, uh, it started 10-4, and I don't think anybody was like, uh, I mean, the vibes were great. There are really no complaints. Everybody was happy. Everyone's like, look, they'll meet LeBron, you know. And then LeBron comes. Ever since LeBron came back, I don't know. It just changed the vibes and changed the energy and changed the chemistry. I think. So I don't know who all the blame is. It Luka? Is it LeBron? But I don't think it's JJ. I think JJ would do great coaching Houston. I think he'd do great coaching even a team like Phoenix. That's kind of they beat OKC tonight. They're kind of underhanded. Just I mean, Jalen Green hasn't even been playing. I don't think so. It's basically just Booker and Dylan Brooks and a bunch of dudes, Mark Williams. But they play hard. So yeah. But I mean, if JJ had a team like Houston, because JJ he's from that cloth of like an Ime Udoka. Like he's a tough nosed son of a gun. If he had a team like that, man, that'd be a blast. But he doesn't have a team like that. He has a team like the one he has. So, yeah, I would say don't blame JJ. It's not his fault. But they did win. They have won 2 straight games now. And we'll see what they do going forward. Now, in football, man, NFL, it was a huge day with so many games and playoff implications. It ended tonight. This irregular season did in Pittsburgh with a classic, one of the NFL's most vicious rivalries, the Ravens and the Steelers. Steelers take the lead, 26-24. They missed the extra point. Then the Ravens come down with three timeouts. They get in range, and Will Look miss what should not have been a difficult field goal at all. And the Ravens are eliminated from the playoffs. They're going home. The Steelers move on. They win the NFC North. They'll host the Texans next week in the wild card round. This game had a ramification. I think it's almost like a more than just playoff wise. It's like a loser go home, loser leave town type game because I still feel like if the Steelers don't make a long playoff run, then Mike Tomlin should probably be fired. It's one of those things where it's not even so much that it's more just that it seems like if ever, I mean, like this is the time to do it. If, like I said, unless they make the Super Bowl, damn near unless they win the Super Bowl. Like I remember when Elway was the in charge of the Broncos, and he told John Fox, if we don't win the Super Bowl this year, I think it was 2014. So if we don't win the Super Bowl, was it 2014? I think it was. So if we don't win the Super Bowl this year, we're just going to have to go in a different direction. And they went in that different direction. They brought in Gary Kubiak, and they won the Super Bowl. So I feel like this is that type of situation for for the Steelers, you know, um, if they don't win the Super Bowl, I think Mike Thomas should be out of there. It's run its course. You know, it goes back to what I think it was 2007 when he became the head coach. Or was it 2006? One of those 2 years. So yeah, and then the Ravens. So we talk about Lamar Jackson. Does he still want to be there? Some people think he could trade it this offseason. Jim Harbaugh, what's his future? He's been in the hot seat in the last few years. They started 1-5. They were able to get back into the thick of things. Does Lamar Jackson still want to play for John Harbaugh? But that seems like another situation where, regardless of what happens with Lamar Jackson, that's the situation. Especially if Lamar Jackson goes, that Jim Harbaugh should go. You know, if you're going to get rid of the franchise quarterback, you might as well get a new head coach in there as well. Although I think if Lamar stays, Harbaugh probably will go. My thing is he should probably go either way. There's another situation where it's like it's like I said, it's run its course, you know, and it's like this is the time to do it if ever there was a time, you know. It's an easy out. It's an easy way to move on. And then you had the Buccaneers and the Saints played. That was last night, I believe. And then the Buccaneers won. Yet the Panthers will be the team. The Panthers won the NFC South because the Falcons beat the Saints today. And so the Falcons beat the Saints, and they still fight Raheem Morris. But as we speak, Todd Bowles still has a job. I feel like Todd Bowles should be fired because I don't see how. I understand that the Buccaneers had some issues there, but at the receiver with Mike Evans getting hurt, and then Chris Godwin having to make his comeback. But they still have the kid Igbuka out there playing really well. I just feel like the Buccaneers should be a team that doesn't. I mean, they should go 12-5 in that division. Except they went 8-9 and they missed the playoffs. And they keep eking by every year and just barely making it. But I feel like the Buccaneers, with the roster they have, they should, be better. And I think this is the time. It wouldn't surprise me if I wake up tomorrow morning and see if the Buccaneers have decided to move on from Todd Bowles, who's okay, but he's not maximizing the Buccaneers. He's just getting the bare minimum out of what they can be. I feel like. Then you have, these playoff matchups are set. Okay, so Seattle they're the one seed in the NFC. They get the bye. And in the AFC, the Broncos are the one seed. They get the bye. And then we'll have Texans at Steelers, Bills at Jags, and Chargers at Patriots in the AFC wild card. Rams at Panthers, Niners at Eagles, and Packers at Bears. I feel like it's interesting because when I look at these matchups, outside of Niners Eagles, which I feel like that's could be the game that decides the NFC. I really winner that game. I already said I think one of those teams will come out of the NFC. But no, I feel more confident in the 49ers. The Rams are sitting there the Rams have everything you need, like I said before, to make the Super Bowl. But if you look at these matchups here, so you got Packers at Bears, Rams at Panthers, Chargers at Pats, Bills at Jags. Right, so that's 4 games where I feel like the road team. I know that the road team is the more experienced team. Packers, Niners, Chargers, Bills all have recent playoff experience, whereas the Jags, Patriots, Bears and Panthers do not. Jags made the playoffs, I think, 2022 was the last time. So it's amazing the brother Jags went 13-4. Like, what the hell? I mean, who? I mean, if the guy Liam Cohen is not the coach of the year, even if you think about what what Mike Vrabel did is amazing also. What Sean Payton has done there with the Broncos has been amazing, you know. But and then of course what Ben Johnson did with the Bears has been amazing. But I would say that probably Trevor Lawrence has never been a bad quarterback. Uh, but 13-4 though. Who thought the Jaguars were going to go 13-4? I watched it. It was from the second the Bears got Ben Johnson. Me and a lot of other people thought, man, the Bears, because I know what Caleb Williams can. I know what he's capable of. And I watched the game earlier this year where he looked so bad. I think it was when they beat the Eagles. It was. He looked so bad. He ended up having a pretty good year. 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, but his completion percentage wasn't that high. He didn't throw for that many yards. But see, his talent is so, like, he might have the strongest arm in the league. And people keep talking about how strong his arm is in cold weather, And, like I said, I watched him at USC. I thought the kid was, there was no doubt in my mind that he was basically the next, it was Patrick Mahomes-like talent, basically. He's not Patrick Mahomes, but he does have a lot of talent. He seems to have that clutch quarterback gene. And I think he's. I just don't know. I'm thinking that he's. It's a hell of a turnaround job by both of those coaches, Johnson and Cohen. But I'm more surprised by what the Jags did. Because the Bears went 11-6, the Jags went 13-4. So and then somehow I think it just kind of feels like the Patriots, and it's weird because they were just playing bad before Mike Vrabel got there last few years. But it seemed like they have like the best, and part of that is you have to give Vrabel credit for how good he's made them look. They look just like a well-oiled machine. But Drake May out of those three quarterbacks is probably the best of those three quarterbacks. I'll talk about him in a second, the NBA MVP situation. So yeah, if I had to, I'd probably go. Yeah, I'd probably have to go. Liam Cohen 1, Ben Johnson 2, and Mike Vrabel 3 for Coach of the Year. And because of the experience factor, though, I like the Packers to beat the Bears at Soldier Field. I like the Rams to beat the Panthers, obviously, but once again, it's the playoffs. You never know what's going to happen. Texans, I think, should take care of this. Texans are playing better than anybody. They should take care of the Steelers. You would think the Bills would be able to beat the Jags, but I think that's going to be a dice one for the Bills, actually. The Chargers and Patriots, like I said, it's an experience thing. The Chargers have been in the playoffs more recently. The Patriots, Drake May's never played a playoff game, and the playoffs are just a different beast, and then Niners and Eagles, I never considered that they might have to play the first in the wild card. But the Niners are probably. Brock Purdy is the way Brock Purdy has been throwing the ball. Jalen Hurts can't do that. He never has. But the Eagles are still the Eagles. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting, man. But if I'm not sure if the playoffs, if they reseed, say if the Rams beat the Panthers, and the Niners, say the Niners beat whoever wins that game, Would the next, would it then be Rams, Eagles? If the Rams get the Eagles or the Niners after, let's say they have a slug, the Niners and Eagles have a slugfest. Um, they play in the second round, let's say, in the divisional round. That would be advantage Rams. But it's the playoffs, man. Who knows what's going to happen? But it's set up to be it's a wide open playoffs, man. No Chiefs, you know. So it's like back in the day, like I said, in Tiger Woods' prime, let's say he missed the tournament for whatever reason, and now it's wide open. You know, that's what we're looking at here. Who knows who's going to lift that Lombardi Trophy in February? Oh, and then as far as the MVP goes, um, I'm bullish on Matt Stafford. I understand why people would. I know after last week, Drake May became the betting favorite. You look at his season. Like I said, the Patriots went 14-3. He threw for 4,394 yards, 31 touchdowns versus 8 interceptions. He also had 450 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. But Matthew Stafford threw for 4,707 yards and 46 touchdown passes. And then only 8 interceptions, and the Rams went 12-5. That's a season that most years would probably, or other years would probably be enough, good enough to win MVP for Drake May. He's the best player on the best team of any MVP candidate, but Matthew Stafford has been the best player in the NFL this year at quarterback, at least. And the Rams did go 12-5. That's a very strong record. The fact that they're the 5 seed, I saw somebody question and go, it's the fact that they're a wild card team. Does that hurt his MVP chance? Because usually the MVP doesn't come from a wild card team. But that record, 12-5, that's a really that's a rock solid record in a conference in a division where they had 3 teams that won 12 games or more, which is amazing. So yeah, I would give the MVP to Matt Stafford, and Drake May, who's already having a great career and is going to continue to have a great career, will have more chances to win MVP. So Matthew Stafford, I think, if you look at the career he's had, this would be a nice capstone achievement. He already has his Super Bowl, and now if he gets his regular season MVP, probably enough to submit a Hall of Fame career for him. So hopefully he's able to take on the hardware. All right, now let me just transition over to college football here. We got so this weekend or this week was the quarterfinals of the college football playoff, and it had Miami, Ole Miss, Oregon, and Indiana advancing, and we'll see Miami and Ole Miss in one of the semifinal games in Oregon and Indiana, and the other one, so it'll be either one team that has never won a national championship in football, and then or 3 of those teams have never won, and then you have Miami, who hasn't won since 2001. My main takeaway from the games, you had Indiana beating Alabama 38-3, and I saw the speech. Somebody posted before the game. It was a video of Nick Saban in the locker room. I think it was before Bama. It was before Bama played Georgia for the national championship. And Saban's in there, and he's it's Calvin Ridley standing right there next to him. And Saban's going, man. He's saying, man, we want to go out there. He's getting guys fired up. And he's saying, yeah, man, like Kirby said, we ain't what we used to be. Well, I'll be damned if I don't want to go out there and prove something different, And he's just getting the guys all fired up, and it's a U.S. And they're also, I was listening to the Ringer Tailgate. The Ringer Tailgate is an excellent podcast with Tate and Van Lathan and Joel Anderson. I think it's the best college football podcast. Just to hang, like very laid back. Not like the other Ringer podcasts that seem very corporate. This one just seems like three guys. Seemed like the podcast basically that I was doing when I had my co-host. It's three guys just shooting the breeze and who know a lot about college football. And but they were Joel was he read the quote um, Damien Square. Uh, you can find the audio. You can find the audio of the video of the Saban speech and then the audio of the Square speech. Damien Square was a defensive lineman for Alabama, back towards the kind of like towards the beginning of the Saban run there. And he's given, and he was, Joe was reading it, but I listened to it. I listened to the actual audio, and Damien's just going, it ain't my fault that he's on it. They're about to play LSU. He's like, it ain't my fault he's on this country. I promise he don't want me. Just talking that talk. And as a USC fan, I understand what it's like to have seen a program at the absolute height that's as good as a college football program can be, and the confidence and the aura and the swagger that's evident throughout the whole program and the whole team. And Miami was like that back in the day. When they it was when I was coming up. Obviously going back to the '80s and then through the 2001 2002 team. They were just so stacked and so talented, had so much swagger. And then the USC teams were like that. Like if you think of Eddie O in the meeting room with the guys, everybody with their shirt off, SC Wild Bunch, right? And this Alabama team under Saban, it was the same type of deal. It's like, who could possibly beat us? We're so good. We're bigger than you. We're faster than you. We're stronger than you. We're more turned up than you are. And it's just kind of like bittersweet when you realize that it's over, because it is over. Bama they might continue to still be a contending team under Kellen DeBoer, but they'll never again be like they were under Nick Saban. They won't be like they're under Kellen DeBoer. And I think it's really impossible. Like with the way NIL has changed things and the transfer portal and all that, it's impossible, as I've said before, to build the type of superpower, college football team that you would see before NIL and before the transfer portal became just like a revolving door of players transferring, every year with no penalty. It's impossible to build that type of roster, So yeah, like I said, it's bittersweet, because but it's when like I said, being a USC fan and remembering how it was, and then knowing it's not like that now. It hasn't been like that since. And then I see the same thing with Alabama now. They still have a talented football team, not as talented as they used to be, and not the same commitment to excellence, the same commitment to dominance that they once had. And Miami, it's cool to see them back up, but they got a bunch of miscellaneous players. When I was coming up, Miami had superstar. Everybody remembers 2001 Miami, man. Ken Dorsey was the quarterback. He didn't do much in the league. He was like a backup, but he was at that time he might have been the most successful college quarterback to play the game. And then Matt Leinart came along, and later Trevor Lawrence, but Tim Tebow before Trevor Lawrence, after Matt Leinart. But of course, Miami, when they had Portis and McGahee and Frank Gore and Andre Johnson and Jeremy Shockey and Kellen Winslow and Brian McKinney and Ed Reed and Sean Taylor, I mean, it's an embarrassment. The best roster, probably top to bottom, in the history of college football, as far as guys who want to have success and great success in the NFL. Um, so, but it's the thing with that. Like they're a good team now. Obviously, they're not as talented as they were back then. But also, they just don't have the same. They don't have the same type of swagger that they used to have either. And I know Rob Parker was saying that Michael Irvin's becoming a distraction. He's been there at the games. Warren Sapp was there. Ray Lewis was there, and it's cool. But they need. I feel like they need those guys there because those like the new players don't have the same aura and the same thing. You know, might be good football players, not as good as their predecessors on those historic Miami teams. But it's almost like you need a Michael Irvin out there to bring that feeling back. So yeah, we'll see what happens with these games though. This coming week. Uh, One thing I have to say, I I do hope that Ole Miss does not win the national championship because that would just make I don't want to say it would make Lane Kiffin look bad, but it just is like you know it would just be like he probably feel like damn I should have stayed at Ole Miss and wanted to have a national championship right now at Ole Miss. So I don't want Lane to have to live with that stain on him. It's not I mean not really a stain. It's like I forget who the coach was at Michigan who left, and then Steve Fisher took over, and they won it. You know, if Lane's not going to be, he's not there. Obviously, he's going to LSU, so the championship would not be credited to him. So hopefully, they just don't win it. Right? I mean, it'll be credited to Pete Golding because Lane took the job before the LSU job before the playoff. So yeah, um, sorry, Ole Miss, but I hope you don't win the national championship. All right, so before I get out of here, just a reminder to hit that subscribe button next to the Complete Podcast Network and to follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at TC Pod Network. You can also send feedback and mailbag questions to Complete Lakers Podcast at gmail.com. I am out.